Okay.
All right, Donna, got the recording going. I think you're good to go.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. I am very excited to have you join me for the introduction to the financial calculator. And we will be using the trusty HP 10B2 calculator. And I'm excited because this is a brand new presentation. It is going to make it simple for you to understand. It will be easy to breeze through it. I think you're going to love it. Okay. Now, I should comment that this is an introduction to the calculator. It's designed for the person that hardly knows which buttons to even start with, okay? So if you have been using the calculator for some time, you might be a little bored, at least with the initial part of the presentation. However, once we go through the 11 basic functions that we use often in doing the mortgages, we're going through some actual sample problems. And so I'm going to show you how you would negotiate a mortgage. So if you're talking to a note seller, you want to calculate the payment, you want to calculate the interest rate. We're going to go through all those things. My goal is that by the end of this webinar, I'm going to have you calculating rates of return, payments, and all those kind of things. Okay. But for now, I do want to reiterate here, we are using the HP 10B2 calculator. Now, I keep my antiquated handheld with me because when I'm on the phone, and honestly, I rarely ever do calculations on the phone, okay? I tell people I don't do math in public. I think that it can be intimidating to a note seller if you're using a calculator in front of them. Now, on the phone, they're not going to see you, but they still know, oh, let me figure this out kind of thing. And so I try not to do that. I also think better if I'm not under the pressure of talking to someone. But every now and then, I will want to do a quick calculation when I'm speaking on the phone. And in that case, I definitely prefer to use the handheld. You can still do it on your smartphone, but that's just my personal preference. But the handheld runs $35 to $40, and you can get them on Amazon or in an office supply store. But what you really, really want, this is what we recommend, is the smartphone app. And just go to your app store and look for the orange icon there. And it's only about $5.99 or so. And it will really, really be good for you. The smartphone app is so much easier to use than the handheld. And one of the reasons I like it is because it tells you what is in the register, okay? So this is what we're going to be teaching from in class. Okay, so let's start with the 11 primary functions of the HP 10B2. Now, the HP 10B2 does all kinds of things that you're never, ever going to use. So I've just chosen the 11 ones that I get the most questions about. When I'm doing a live class, somebody will say, there's a comma where there should be a decimal point. Donna, what am I supposed to do? How do I get off of this? Or, oh no, I've got it set on quarterly payments. I need 12 payments per year. And so I pulled out 11 functions that I think that you might want to know what they are. We'll run through those real quick, and then we'll get started calculating some rates of return. Okay, so first of all, you definitely need to know where the shift key is. The shift key is that orange rectangular key. And the thing about it is that right there, okay, when you press that orange key, did you see what happened? If you're using the smartphone, then all of those little tiny numbers in orange come alive and they enlarge so you can see what you're doing. So the orange function key accesses the function that is at the bottom of the keys, okay? So let's see here. It is a toggle key. So you need to press it to turn it on, and you have to press it again to turn it off. And that's that button right there. Okay. Okay. If you are using the handheld calculator, it will usually tell you up on the display that the shift key is on, but you don't need that if you're using the smartphone because you'll see because all the orange uh, font just jumps right out at you. Okay, so know that that is the shift key. Okay, and by the way, the shift key does not lock. You have to press it each time you want to use it. Okay. Okay, you also need to know that the math on here, it's not done in that crazy scientific notation like the old calculators used to. The HP12C was scientific notation, but it's done in algebraic mode. And all that means is it's very simple to use. You're just going to enter your numbers and signs just as you would say them. You want to make sure, however, that you use these signs right here, these functions. Okay, so if you were going to do 4 plus 5, 4 plus 5 equals. It's that simple. I don't need to run through all of them. So just make sure that when you really want to use, do an addition or a subtraction, you use these buttons here and not this little one up here, which I'm going to tell you in just a minute what that one is all about. Okay. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you is that there are 3 ways for clearing the calculator. Now, this number, this button right here is the back arrow. And if you hit that, first let's load up some numbers on here. And then if you hit the back arrow, you can see that it clears the display 1 digit at a time until you get back to the beginning there, okay? So that is one way to clear the calculator. Now, the other way to clear the display is by using this clear, it's just clear button. And again, let's put some numbers up there. You press that, and in one touch of the button, it takes you back to 0. Okay. Now, the next one is very important, and that is, oops, that is the shift clear all. So that's shift and then clear all. And the reason that that is so important is that it not only clears the display, but it also clears the memory. Okay, so it clears everything that is in the registers. And you're saying, Donna, what's a register? Don't worry, I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Okay. Okay. Next, we need to make sure that we have the number of payments per year set to whatever we're working on. Now, most of our notes that we're working on are going to be 12 months. It uses a 12 months per year, but every now and then you get one that could be a quarterly, have quarterly payments or annual payments. So right now you can look right up here and you see that we are set on 12 payments per year. But let's say you got a quarterly note that you wanted to look at. To change that to quarterly payments, all you have to do is hit 4 because there's 4 payments per year, and then the shift. And then you want to hit payments per year, which is right up there underneath the payment key. Now, do you see here how that changed to 4 payments per year? Okay. If you happen to be working on one where it doesn't display the 4 payments per year and you want to see what it is to double check, all you have to do is hit your shift key and then the clear all. And when you hold it down on those, it will flash in the screen 4 payments per year. Okay. So if you don't see it up there, just hit shift and then clear. Okay. All right. But right now, what do we need to do? We need to change that back to 12. And you want to be really careful about that. If you ever change to a different type of payment than monthly, make sure as soon as you're done that you change it right back, because you'll get some crazy answer the next time that you do a calculation and you'll wonder what in the heck is going on. So let's put 12 and then we do the shift button and then the payment button, payments per year. And we see that indeed it has changed to 12 payments per year. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about beginning or end mode. Now, what that is it defines when the payment is made. Is it made at the beginning of the interest period, or is it made at the end of the interest period? Well, most mortgages are made at the end of the month, right? Somebody lends money, and then at the end of the month, their interest payment is due. So for most of the mortgages that you're going to be working on, you almost always want it on end mode. And in this one, it actually shows end mode up here in the display. Now, on some calculators, it doesn't say end mode. It only tells you if it's in beginning mode. Now, think about it. When would you ever use beginning mode? Leases, that's right. Because with a lease, if you're paying rent, you pay rent at the beginning of the month, and then you get to live there all month, okay? So if you are calculating rates of return or whatever on involving rents, then in that case, you would want to switch to begin mode. Now, how do you switch? You're simply going to press the Shift key and then go up here to the beginning or end. Now, do you notice right here how it changed to begin mode? Okay. But like I said, rarely will we ever want it in begin mode. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to hit Shift and back up here to end. And we're back in end mode, as you can see right there. Okay. Okay. Kind of jumped ahead of myself. Okay, so now let's talk about changing between positive or negative numbers. Okay, the fact is that when you're entering payments into your calculator, you need to be cognizant of the fact, is it money into your pocket or out of your pocket? And obviously, if it's out of your pocket, it's going to be negative. Okay, so you need to be very careful about your plus or minus signs. It will totally change your whole answer, okay? Or it may give you an error that you can't even calculate an answer. Okay, so to do that, let's put 955, okay? And we want to make that negative. So all we would need to do is put our number that we want in the display, and then we're just going to press this plus or minus sign. Notice how it changed to negative. Now it is a toggle key, which means you can keep going back and forth and it'll keep changing. Now, the important thing to realize is that all I did here was change the sign in the display. But when we start doing our calculations, we are going to be working with this row of numbers here. And don't worry, I'm going to explain all of those to you. But like, let's say this is a payment. Well, if it's a payment, I'm going to be receiving that payment from somebody. So I'm going to hit the positive sign. I'm going to make it positive. But I have to be careful because I need to put it into the payment register. Okay. So once I hit that payment, did you see what happened here? The 955 shows up on top of it. And that's what I meant, why the reason that I like these apps as opposed to the handheld, you can't see what's in the register. I would have to use this recall button and pull each one of those up to see. But with the app, it's great because it displays whatever is in the memory of what you're using. Okay. But you have to make sure when you change the sign that you then press one of these 5 keys to put it in the appropriate memory register. Okay. And as I said, payments out of your pocket are negative and payments coming into your pocket are positive. Okay. Now, one thing that I do early on, because when I started doing the calculations, I think, wait a minute, was I the lender this time or was I the borrower? And so I just said, you know what, I got to make a rule for myself. And so when I am doing a calculation, I always view the calculation as though I am the lender, okay? And that way my numbers, my positive and negative signs never get mixed up, okay? So that's just a handy little thing that you can use, and I think it will help you out a lot, okay? Another thing that you might want to do is change how many decimal places there are to the right of the decimal. Now, I like to keep mine on 2, and the reason is because we're dealing with money, and the smallest money that we use is a penny, so it would be 100th, the 2 places to the right of the decimal. But if you did, for some reason, want to see more decimal places, then all you need to do is press Shift right there, and then equals down here, and however many places you want. So let's say you want 4. See how that changed to 4 places? Okay, it's real simple to do. Okay, now I'm going to change it back now to 2 because that's what I like. Okay, um, you need to be aware that even though only 2 places to the right of the decimal are actually showing, there could be 14 numbers on that display that it could be using, but they're not on the display. Okay, so let me show you how that works. What you would need to do is view the full precision, and that's what we're going to cover next. So let me get to that one. So even though the calculator is just showing 2 digits there to the right of the decimal, I'm going to take 10 divided by 3, okay? And we see 2 digits. But the calculator is using a much longer number, okay? And if you want to see what this number is, all you have to do is press Shift and then this display button there, and then equals. Just hit that twice. Look at that. So do you see why you could be doing some kind of addition, multiplication or whatever, or just doing our regular 5 buttons up there, and you could wind up with quite a different number than you were expecting because the calculator is using the precision number and not the exact number that you're looking at. Now, what I normally do is I like to round the number and make sure I'm using exactly what's on there when I am calculating a payment, when I'm like writing a note or a modification. I don't do it every time I calculate a payment because, like, if I'm just doing a quote, this minuscule difference, it's not going to make any difference on my quote, okay? But it could make a difference. Let's say if I were writing out a note and I wanted to give what the balloon payment was at the end, I need to use the exact dollar amount and cents that the payment is. I can't be using some long precision number because it would throw my balloon off, okay? So I'm going to show you how to round that in just a second. But if you want to always show the full precision, then what you're going to do is you're going to hit the Shift and the display and then the decimal. And notice it keeps that number up there. I'm not holding on to anything, but then you can always know whether you're using the full precision or not, okay? And now I'm going to go back to Shift, Display, 2. Okay. So now we need to talk about rounding, because like I said, if you have this long number in as a payment, let's look here. So I put the 3.33 and we're going to do the Shift display equals. So we know now we've got this long number in there. So what I want to do is I want to round that to exactly 3.33. So to do that, all you need to do is press the Shift and the round button, which is the same as the back arrow key. Okay. Now, that changed the number that is in the display. I'll show you. We can go Shift, Display, equals. They rounded it. But It only rounded it in the display. Now we need to put that into payment. So now we just have to press the payment key. And hopefully that did work. Let's see what we've got now. Shift display equals. I was afraid because I did something in between that might have messed it up, but it didn't. Okay, so now we know that in our payment memory, it shows exactly $3.33 and not some fraction of a penny. Okay. And we just did that. So we're good to go. Oh, let me tell you this. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, it's just easier for me to go ahead and re-enter. I'll show you what I do. So 10 divided by 3 equals the 333. And we see that's the long number. Okay, sometimes like I put that into payment and it's that long number. Sometimes I just re-enter 3.33 payment. Okay, now let's do shift display equals. By entering the exact dollars and cents and pressing the payment key, I rounded it automatically by re-entering the number. So either one of those ways would work, whatever's more comfortable for you. Okay. Now, like I said, since this you're using the Smart app and this shows whatever is in the register, let me just show you that. So let's put 120 into N. Okay, maybe we got 10% interest, 100,000 negative PV. Okay, so you can see everything that I just entered right there. Okay, but if you are using some of the Smart, well, actually, I think it's only the handheld, and you cannot see what is in the memory, then in that case, you may want to recall a number. And so the way that you would do that is to simply press the recall button. I get that. Recall, and then maybe you want to see what the payment is, and it will show you what's in the payment. It's not very effective here since we can see it, but know that if you are using the handheld, that is a really, really handy thing to know. Okay. Okay. Now, sometimes what will happen is I will have my phone in my purse and it gets bumped. Or somehow I just pick it up and all of a sudden, instead of a decimal point, I've got a comma. And I actually think that might be used in Britain. I'm not positive, but I think that's why it's on here. But let me tell you, when that happens, it's frustrating to look at a comma when you're used to a decimal point, okay? And so to change it back is very, very simple. Just hit the shift key and then down there at the bottom, the comma decimal point, okay? So see how it changed this up here to the comma. But I like it the other way. So we're back now to the decimal point. Okay. And you can go back and forth on it. Okay. Now, before we start doing some calculations, you have to get ready, get set, and go. Okay. Or 1, 2, 3, go. And let me share with you what that is. Now, you want to get in the habit of doing this anytime that you're starting with a new note. Now, I'm going to show you in a little bit that if you're doing a series of calculations on the same note, then you don't want to clear the calculator because it's very handy to have the information already stored in it, okay? But let's say you're finished with one note, you're going on to the next one, then you want to clear the calculator. And to do that, you're going to simply, let me pull this back up here. You're simply going to hit the shift key and then clear all. Okay, did you see it? The shift and then clear all. And notice everything left the memory up there. Okay, So now you're ready to start a new note. Then the next thing you want to do is make sure that you're set to however many number of payments there are. And like I said, usually that is going to be 12. So if it happens, let's say you want 4 payments here, then all you have to do is hit the 4 and then payments per year. Did I do that right? Oh, I forgot the shift. 4 shift payments per year. Now we got it, okay? That shift button is important. So 4 shift and then payment, okay? But I got to get it back to 12. So I'm going to do 12 shift payments per year, and you can see we're back to 12. Okay, so we got that one right. And last but not least, we need to make sure we are set to end mode, which we are. And if you happen to not be on end mode, then what you're going to do is press the shift, begin or end. Notice here that now I'm in begin mode. Okay, so let's take it back to end mode, and we're back to end. So these are the 3 things that you should do each time when you pick up a submission form and you want to start evaluating it. Clear your calculator, make sure you're set at the right number of payments per year, and make sure you're on end mode. Okay. And the biggest pitfall, I would say, that you might run into is forgetting to pay attention to the positive or negative signs. Remember that money out of your pocket is negative, money into your pocket is positive. And like I said, to avoid confusion, I like to always consider myself as the lender. Okay. Okay, to change between the positive and negative signs. So if we've got, let's say we got $1,000 and we want to make, let's say I'm lending someone $1,000. Then to change that to a negative number, I'm just going to hit that positive or negative sign. Okay. And don't forget now, if I'm lending them money, that's going to go in PV. So I've got that in the display and I drop that into present value. PV is present value. And don't worry, I'm going to make sure you know exactly what that is. Okay. Okay. So the 3 biggest pitfalls, if you do a calculation and you do not get the right answer, most likely it's because you forgot a negative sign. Or you didn't round a payment when you really needed to round the payment, or you didn't do the 1, 2, 3 go. Either you didn't clear the calculator, you don't have the right payments per year, or you forgot to set it on end mode. So if you have an issue, if we're working on these and you don't come up with the same answer that I have, check your sign, check to see if you rounded, and then ask yourself, did I clear the calculator, set the payments per year, and was I in end mode? And most likely that was one of those things is why you did not come up with the right answer. Okay. Okay. All righty. So I want to take just a couple minutes before we get started on some sample calculations. And I want to talk about the time value of money. And the time value of money is what we use to calculate our compound interest transactions, okay? And time value of money is simply, don't know why we're not moving, there we go. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Okay, think about that. Which would you rather have? $10,000 today or $10,000 10 years from now? You want it today, don't you? Okay, why? Most everybody says inflation, and boy, in today's economy, I can see why. Inflation is going crazy right now. And so that is certainly one reason. But the big reason that you should want $1 today instead of $1 tomorrow is money has earning power. So if you had that $10,000 today, you could invest it And 10 years from now, you could have 100,000 or more. Okay, so you have to take into consideration not just how much money you're getting on something, but when you are getting it. Very, very important. And you can really use that to your advantage when you're negotiating. Okay, because when you get the money, or when you pay the money, can have can be a big difference. Okay. Okay. When you are looking at a loan, you need to realize that each payment has its own value. And the farther out in time that payment is, the less value it has. Okay. So, in the most simplistic sense, if you didn't have a financial calculator and you didn't have the formulas and the tables and all those things they used to work with, you would have to calculate the value of each monthly payment and then add it together. So if you were looking at a 360-month loan, you'd have 361 calculations to do. So needless to say, I'm extremely happy that we have a calculator. Okay, saves a lot of time. Now, when we are doing these time value of money calculations, these are only for the even cash flows. And that just simply means that all of the payments are the same. For example, 360 monthly payments of $500 each. But sometimes you will run into loans where maybe after the first year of $500 a month, there's a $5,000 balloon payment. And then it might go back to the 500 a month, or maybe it's 500 a month for the first year and then 1,000 a month for the second year. Those are called uneven cash flows. And if you want to calculate any rates of return on those, then you want to use the CFJ functionality of the HP 10B2. We are not going to cover that in this webinar, primarily because we seldom ever use it. Most of the time, especially if you're flipping notes, the time value of money function is exactly what you need to use. Okay, so let me explain to you what the time value of money function is. There are 5 components to calculating the time value of money. The first thing is N, which is the number of, it's the number of interest periods, okay? But in our case with notes, it's usually going to be months. So it's the number of months. Okay, the next one is interest, represented as I. And technically, when you are using interest, it should be the amount of interest that's charged, in our case here with using months, each month. But because we set the payments per year in the calculator to 12 monthly payments before we got started, the calculator will actually divide the annual interest by 12 and apply it appropriately. Okay, so it is saving you a lot of time. Used to be you had to enter the annual amount, divide it by however many pay periods there were in a year and all that kind of stuff. But this really does save a lot of time. So you're going to put the annual interest rate in there, okay, and let the calculator do the work. Then you want to know how much the payments are. And so this is represented by the payment key. Then we want to look at PV. PV is the present value. I like to think of it as the starting point. So if you are lending somebody money, PV would be the initial amount of the loan. So for example, $100,000. The last component is the future value. And basically, that's just the end of the loan. And if it's fully amortizing means just a portion is paid each month until at the end, nothing is owed. Fully amortized means that at the end of the loan, the balance is 0. So here we have 0 and that is the future value. So present value is the starting point, future value is the ending point. Now, interestingly, you already saw in the calculator, these are the components that we have in the top row of our financial calculator, okay? And what's so cool about this is that you can enter 4 of these components, and then all you have to do is press the button on the missing one, and it will solve and give you the answer for that. Okay, so let's go over here. For example, let's say, oops, Matthew, will you make that, put that in the right place for me?
Yep.
Please. I did something to change
No
it. So let's say that I'm going to clear the calculator.
Are you using the calculator right now, Donna?
I do want to use it right now, please.
Okay, here, let me just, yeah, how about right there?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm going to clear the calculator. I'm going to press the shift and then the clear all. Maybe I'm going to move it up just a bit, Matthew. Okay. Starting with a clean slate. So let's say I'm going to lend someone $100,000. I have the 100,000. Now I'm going to change the sign to 100,000, and I'm going to put that in PV. That's the beginning point of the loan. And let's say I'm going to charge them 10% interest. So I'll hit 10 and I just touch interest per year. Now I've got the interest stored. And let's say I want to lend them this money. I'll fully amortize it over 10 years. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 0 into N. Okay. And at the end of the 10 years, since it's fully amortized, I'll put 0 in future value. But I don't know the payment. It doesn't matter because all I have to do is touch payment and it calculates it for me. That's what I mean when I say solve for. Just touch the button of whatever the missing value is, and the calculator will calculate it for you. Now, a couple things here. First of all, if you cleared the calculator, you don't really need to put the 0 in future value. There will already be a 0 there, okay? I do it out of habit just to make sure there's no residual, just in case I forgot to clear the calculator or something like that. The other thing that I want to show you is, let's say maybe we were going to do this over 30 years. What I could do, since we set 12 payments per year, and let's say I want to change this to 30 years, I could simply press 3, 0, then the shift key, and then N. And look what happened. It just multiplies it out for you. Okay, so you can either manually put in 360, or you can put in 30, shift, and N, and it will multiply that out into monthly payments. Okay, pretty easy, right? Okay, so it gets easier even, believe it or not. When I first started, when the manual talked about registers, I was like, what in the heck is a register? It was just something that I had never heard of. And so once I finally figured it out, I thought, you know what? It's no different than having storage boxes. So if you have a storage box and you're going to keep all the N in this one, and you'll keep the I in this one, PV in this one, payment, future value. And what you need to know is that unless you clear the calculator or you put a different value in, then whatever you have in that storage box is going to stay there. Okay. And I'm going to show you in just a few minutes how you can really use that to your advantage. But I want to give you a visual demonstration of this. So, oops. So let's say that we've got this $100,000 loan and we put that into PV, and we're going to use 10% interest into I, and this will be 120 months, 0 future value. we want to know what the payment is. All you have to do is tap the payment button, and there you go, $1,321.51. Okay, so the value is going to stay in the box until you replace the value or you clear the calculator. Okay, so do you see we have all of the same numbers that we have up above? But maybe you think, well, I think I want to see if 8%, how would that change the payment? All you do is put 8 into I. Don't change anything else. And now you go over here and you solve for payment. Look how easy that was. So if we only charged them 8%, notice that the payment would be less. And so do you see here that the N and the PV and the FV, they stayed exactly the same because we did not clear the calculator. We did not change what was in those storage registers. Okay. Maybe you decide, wait, I think let's try 240 months. Here you go. These are the same numbers that we already have in the storage registers. So let's put the 240 into N and we press the payment key. There you go. If we amortize this over 240 months, the payment drops down even lower to only $836. But do you see? Notice here it was 120, but it changed. The 8 stays the same because we didn't change the interest rate. The loan amount did not change this whole time, so it stayed the same. And the end future value did not change. The only thing that changed was what we replaced, the 240 yen and the new payment amount. So when you're doing a series of calculations on the same note, it's just convenient to leave these numbers in there and only change whatever is necessary. It saves you a ton of time. Okay, let's look at some basic calculations now. Okay, let's first calculate the monthly payment. Let's say that an investor wants to borrow $100,000 amortized over 30 years at 10% interest. What is the monthly payment? All right, let's see. We would enter 360 into N, 10 into I, 100,000 negative, right? And then PV. You see what I'm doing? Do you notice that each time after I enter it into the display, I am selecting one of the components, okay? And then at the end of the loan, the future value is going to be 0 because it is fully amortized. So I'll put that into PV and I press payment and I find out that the payment amount is going to be the $87.57. $87.57. Okay. Now, when you look at these numbers in a row like that, I want you to get used to the fact that they tell a story. You know, whenever I keep notes if I'm doing some calculations, I use a legal pad and I will just write out these 5 numbers and I write them in the same order as they appear on the calculator. And a lot of times I'll jot a little note out to the side, but I can look at this. If I see this here, oh, and what you want to do, notice how I've got this bold and underlined. Underline whatever you solve for, put a circle around it or something, okay? But since I know we solved for payment, when I look at this, this tells me that if I lend someone $100,000 at 10% interest, fully amortized over 360 months, the payment would be $877.57. Okay, so get used to looking at these numbers and getting an understanding of what those numbers are telling you. Okay. Uh-oh, timeout. Before you start entering your numbers, what do you have to do? Clear the calculator, set the calculator to 12 payments per year, and make sure that you are on end mode. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Clear the calculator. I've already got 12 payments per year and I'm in end mode. Okay, we come up, we put our numbers in. We've got, I'm going to have to enter these again so you can see 360N, 10 into I, 100,000 negative PV. Don't forget the negative sign. 0 into future value. Now all I'm going to do is just press that payment key, and the payment is $877.57. Now, if I were writing a note out, I would want to round it off. And to round, you simply press Shift, which is this button here, and then round, which is right here. And now that number is rounded in the display, but we have to remember to hit the payment button to put the rounded number into the payment register. Okay. And if you want to check that, you can go Shift, Display, Equals, and you can see that indeed it is rounded off. But like I said, if I'm just calculating a quote and I'm not actually preparing a document, I don't waste time to round off. I just go with it, okay? Now, this tells me that if I lend someone $100,000 at 10% interest, fully amortized over 360 months, the payment's going to be the $877.57. Okay, we already did that. Everybody with me? Okay. Now
Yeah, this is
here,
good, Donna. Thank you.
okay, awesome. Now this is how I keep track of my notes. So you notice all I did was take those same numbers and put them out here under NIPV payment FV. Now I've done this so much, I don't have to put NIPV up there. I know if I see 5 numbers in a row like that, I know exactly what it is. And here, just to help you, especially if you're new at it, I just put a note out here. We calculated the payment. Okay. Okie doke. So let's say you're working on this and you're thinking, you know what? I don't think I want to go out any longer than 20 years. What would the payment be if we change this to a 20-year loan? Okay, we already have 10% interest in there. We're not changing that, so we leave that alone. And we already have negative 100,000 in there, and we already have 0. All we need to do is change N. Okay, so we're going to put 240 into N. And then we're going to press the payment button, and you see you get the $965.02. Okay. See how it's handy just to leave those numbers in there, and it's handy because you can look right up here and know what is in there. So you're not trying to guess. You don't have to keep doing that recall thing. Okay. Now, what does this tell you? If you look at those 5 numbers, if I look at these 5 numbers, it tells me that if I lend someone $100,000 at 10% interest, fully amortized over 20 years, then the payment would be $965.02. Okay. And I'm going to move those numbers over and show what I did here was I changed the term. So you can see here that these stay the same. All I did was put the 240 into N, and I saw for the new payment. Okay, so what if now the borrower says, wait a minute, the most I can possibly afford is $900 a month. Well, if he just paid me $900 a month, what would my interest rate be? Okay, you've already got the 240 months, you have the loan amount, And you know at the end of the term, it's going to be 0. So all you have to do is enter 900 into payment, and then you're going to solve for I, and you'll find out that that works out to be 9%. So let's do that. So all we're going to do is put 900 into payment, and we're going to press I, and indeed, it's 9%. So what this tells me now is that if you lend someone $100,000 amortized over 240 months with payments of $900 per month, then the interest rate would be 9%. Okay. And notice the reason I know that this is if you lend someone is because this 100,000 is negative. So I know that's money out of the lender's pocket, because as I said, I always look at mine from the view of the lender just so I don't forget what I was doing. Okay. So we go and we put this on our notes, and we see that all we did was change the payment, and we solve for I. And indeed, we find out that if we change the payment to $900, then we're lowering the payment to 900. So that means that we're getting less interest on our money to the tune of 9%. Okay. All righty. But you say, look, I need to make at least 9.5% return on my money. So what would the payment be at 9.5%? Well, again, we can leave the 240 months there. We've got the $100,000 original amount, and we've got 0. So all we need to do is put in our 9.5 into I, and we solve for payment, and we find out that it would be 932.13. So let's do that. We're going to put 9 point, oops, I made a mistake. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to use that back arrow. Okay. So I got 9.5, and now I have to put that into I. Okay. And then I'm going to press payment, and I do have $932.13. Okay. And when I look at this, this tells me if you lend someone $100,000 amortized over 240 months with interest at 9.5%, the monthly payment would be $932.13. Are you starting to get used to reading this as a story of what's happening? But the key is you really need to know what you solved for, okay? Because if you don't know what you solved for, it could be anything. Okay, and we're going to move this over here. Once again, you see this all stays the same. What we changed here was we changed the interest rate and solved for a new payment. Okay, so after considering all this, you decide that you're going to keep the interest rate at 9.5 because you don't want to go any lower than that. But you are going to go ahead and lower the payment to 900 because that's the most that he could pay. So if you were to do that, how long would it take him to pay off the loan? Because something is going to change. If you change any one of the 5 components, something else has to change. Okay, so we have the 9.5 that you want to stick with. You have our original loan amount of 100,000 negative because it's out of your pocket, and you have the 900. And we know it's fully amortized, so we still have the 0 in future value. All we have to do is press N, and we find out that it would take 268.49 months to pay this loan off. Remember, before it was 240. So it's going to take a little bit longer to pay this off. So let's put these numbers in. We have our 9.5 already. We need to just change that payment to 900. So we put that into payment. And all we have to do is press M. And you see that it goes up to the 268.49 payments. Okay. So if I look at this, I say, if you lend someone $100,000 at 9.5% interest with payments of $900 a month, it is going to take 268.49 months to pay off the loan. We go to our notes over here. And you see what we did. We lowered the payment to $900. We left the interest the same. So that means it's going to take longer to pay off the loan. Okay. Get that back up here.
I'm going to make it a little bigger, Donna.
Thank you. I appreciate it. When I changed that before, it made it smaller.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. So I don't like having a term that is a fraction of a month. So what would happen if we round off the 268.49? What if we round that to 268? How would that affect the end of the loan? Because we don't want to change the original loan amount, we don't want to change interest, and we don't want to change payment. But we do want to change the number of payments. So we've already got these set. We're going to enter 268 into N, and then we're simply going to solve for FV. So let's do that. We'll put 268 into N, and we're going to press FV, and we find out that the borrower would still owe $439.04. So after the borrower makes 268 payments of $900, he's going to have a small balance left that will need to be added on to that last payment. Okay. Technically, that is called a balloon. A balloon is an amount that's left at the end of the loan. Well, it sometimes can occur in the middle of the loan, but normally the balloon is going to be at the end of the term, and it is the amount that's owed immediately upon making that last payment. Okay, so if I'm looking at this here, I'm going to say that if you lend someone $100,000 amortized over 268 months at 9.5% interest with payments of $900 a month, there will be a small final balance of $439.04, and that's going to get added on to the last payment. So when the person comes in to make the final payment, or when they go to mail you the final payment, their payment should be $1,339.04. Okay, we look at that on our notes. Oh, here I had a nice little graphic there I didn't see. So this is the amount that is owed immediately upon making that payment. You know, that's a very common, there is a very common misconception on this. Some people want that $439 to be due the following month. It is not. It is the amount that remains to be paid as soon as that 268th payment is made. So for the payoff, you have to add it together. Okay. And if we put that on our notes, we see here that we rounded the term, and we realize that there's going to be a small balloon payment or a small balance owed at the end of the loan. So just as a little summary here, how do you calculate the payoff of a loan? You're going to enter your original terms, your I, PV, and payment. And then you enter the number of payments made into N. So it doesn't have to be at the end of the loan. What if they pay it off early? Okay, so if they pay it off early, you put however many payments that they have made, and then you simply solve for FV. And then remember to add FV onto that last payment. Okay, so let's just well, we'll do it on this one here. So you decide that you don't want to go to 268 months. You need this to be paid off sooner. So you decide that you want to add a 240-month balloon. So how would that work? Well, again, you already have negative 100,000 as your loan amount. You've got your interest rate, you've got your payment. All you need to do is put 240 into N and simply solve for FV. And you find out that there would be this balloon payment of $22,000. This is the balance that is owed after or upon making the 240 monthly payment. So if it's time for them to pay off, which if it's a balloon payment, that means pay to come in or mail you a check or whatever, wire you funds, however they're going to do it. But their last payment to you would be $22,874 plus $900. It's very important to remember to add that last payment to the balloon amount. Okay. So what this tells me is that if you lend someone $100,000 at 9.5%, and after they've made 240 monthly payments of $900 each, the balloon amount would be $22,874.95. Okay, so let's go up here and see how this would work. We simply need to put 240 into N, and we are going to press FV, and that gives us our balloon amount of $22,874.95. Okay. And if we go over here to our notes, we see what we did here was we calculated a 20-year balloon payment. We put 240 into N, we solve for FV, and this is our balloon amount. So when they come in to pay off this loan, they're going to pay $22,874 plus the $900 payment. It was the 240th monthly payment. Okay. Okay. So you made the loan with a 20-year balloon. And let's say now that the borrower has paid 30 monthly payments. And you want to know what's the current balance owed on the loan. Well, we've already got our interest, our $100,000 original loan amount, and our $900 payment. To find the current balance, all you have to do is put however many payments have been made into N. So we're going to put 30 into N, and we see by solving for FV that the current balance is $96,347. Okay, let's do that on our calculator. We're going to put 30 into N, and we are going to press FV, and we see that the fair market value. I see FV and I automatically think fair market value. The future value is $96,347.83. So this tells me that if you lend someone $100,000 at 9.5% interest, after making 30 monthly payments of $900 each, the current balance would be $96,347.83. And so we can go ahead. I started a new page on this, and we see those same numbers. Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about calculating the UPB, which is the unpaid balance. And that happens to be the same as the present value of the remaining. Present value of the remaining, doesn't that sound so sophisticated? Like, oh my gosh, what is that? The present value of the remaining is just the current balance on the loan. It's what the loan is worth today. It's today's value of the remaining payments. It's the unpaid balance. Those are all terms for the same thing, okay? So if they have made 30 payments on a 240-month loan, there are 210 monthly payments remaining of $900 each, plus our balloon. And that's still going to earn interest at the rate of 9.5%. So what is the unpaid balance on the loan? All you have to do is put in, you have to put in the 210, okay? And I should have had the 100,000 in there. No. That's what we're going to calculate. Okay. What we're looking for now is the present value of the remaining payments. So how many payments are left? There are 210 monthly payments of 900 plus this big balloon at the end, the 22,874. So we put that in. How much interest is being charged? The 9.5. So we have to put 9.5 into I, and we just simply press PV, and we see, come on, baby. Okay. Who saw what I didn't do on the calculator? Look over here on the calculator. Does that say 22,874? No. I did that on purpose to see if anybody noticed. Not really.
Oh, yeah, sure, Donna. Yes.
Okay, so we got to put that balloon amount in. Okay, 22,874.95. Now I will tell you something. If I had my 4 infallible steps up here, that would not have happened, because I would have immediately seen that I needed to put a 0 in there. Okay, or not a 0, but the balloon amount. Okay, so we're putting the balloon into FV. See right there? So you see that the balloon changed. We've got our balloon amount. So what is the present value of the remaining? Let's check that out. Let's see what that's going to be. We're going to press PV. And in fact, the present value is 96,347. So what does this tell us? This tells us that if you have 210 payments left of $900 plus a $22,874 balloon, and it's earning interest of 9.5%, then the present value of those payments, which again is the same as the current balance or the unpaid balance, is $96,347.83. Okay. Okay, let's go over here to our notes. Oh, I had this nice little graph made up for you. Okay, so here's our loan. 240 total payments, and we have 30 payments that have already been made, and we have 210 payments left. So I have to tell you that when I was first learning how to calculate notes, and I had not come up with my 4 infallible steps, what confused the heck out of me was why sometimes when I calculated for the current balance, I would solve for FV. And other times I would solve for PV. And it's like, how in the heck do you know which one you're going to solve for? And so for me, I'm a visual person. So I ended up literally making this timeline. And then it was like this aha moment of what I discovered. And that's what I want to share with you, because I think that it will help you to have a better understanding of how the numbers work on this. So what we did right here, we are starting at PV. PV is when we lent the money. And we are measuring to this point here on the timeline. 30 payments have been made. And so if we work forward and we solve for FV, the current balance after 30 payments is $96,347, right? Okay, but now, what if we work backwards? We look at the remaining payments and we work backwards and come back to this point. What we see is if we work backwards and we solve for PV instead of FV, then we find out that the unpaid balance of the 210 payments is also that same point on the timeline, the $96,347. The current balance and the unpaid balance and the present value of the remaining, they're all one and the same. But do you see, if you're measuring on the timeline from the beginning of the loan till today, in that case, you would have been solving for FV. But if you measure this way and you're looking at the remaining payments and coming back to today, then you're solving for PV. I hope that helped you to understand why it can, sometimes you're solving for FV and sometimes PV, and it's the same number. And this is the basis of my infallible 4 steps, which we are going to be covering on the next webinar Tuesday night. Okay, we are going to cover that Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. We will be going through the infallible 4 steps. Okay, so there's our numbers on that, and notice how those two look this. They don't look, they are the same. Okay, and that is the infallible 4th step to check your numbers. Everybody with me? Okay, so going back to our note, let's say that you accept an $85,000 offer. You want to sell the note, okay? And you have somebody who's offered you $85,000 for this note. What is the investor's yield or their buy rate? Okay, so first of all, you have to put in whatever they're buying. So they're going to buy 210 payments of $900 plus this balloon. So we've already got those amounts entered in here. Okay, now you need to put in what they're paying. They're paying $85,000, and so that's money out of their pocket, so that's going to be negative. So you put that into present value, and then you're going to press I and solve for I. And what this tells us is if an investor pays $85,000 for 210 monthly payments of $900 each, plus a balloon of $22,874, then his return or his buy rate would be 11.38%. Actually, return isn't really the proper word. It's yield to maturity. What this means is if he invested this money and the loan went to maturity and did not pay off early, he would earn 11.38%. But do you know what happens if he pays off early? If you've watched any of my webinars, you know that his rate of return is going to go up. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Okay, so we look at the investor's buy rate, and we see that right here, that if an investor buys this loan for $85,000 and he's buying 210 payments of $900 each plus the balloon, his buy rate or yield to maturity would be 11.38%. Okay, so I don't know why I keep doing that, Matthew. If you'd make that larger for me and get that set up, that would be awesome. But
Sure.
let me one sec, please. So 8 months later, go ahead now, I'm sorry. 8 months later, the borrower refinances and the borrower pays off the investor. Okay, so we want to know what's the payoff amount if the borrower has paid a total of 38 payments. He paid 30 to me, and then he has paid 8 to the investor. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the original amount of the loan now, because now we're looking at this from the view of the borrower. So forget the 85,000 and all these other things. We have to go back to the original amortization on the loan. So we're going to put negative 100,000 into PV. The interest rate was 9.5, payments of 900. So we said 38 payments have been made. We drop that into N. We solve for FV, and we find out that the current balance is $95,218.24. So let's put those numbers in. I'm putting in the 100,000. I'm going to change that to negative. Did you see that right there? Okay. Now what happened? I pressed it twice, so it changed to positive. So I'm going to change it again. I'm going to put that into PV. Okay. I've got the interest correct. I've got the payment correct. Now I need to put 38 into N and simply press FV. And indeed, our current balance is the $95,218. So that's the balance owed. And if he's going to pay off the loan, what does he have to do? He has to pay that amount plus he has to pay the $95,218 plus that 38th payment. Okay, so if you loan someone $100,000 at 9.5% interest, and they make 38 monthly payments of $900, the remaining balance is $95,218.24. The payoff amount is the 38th payment of $900 plus this $95,000. Okay, so let's put that on our notes, and that's what that looks like. But the important thing to keep in mind here is that when you're calculating a payoff for the borrower, you must go back to the original amount of the loan. Okay. Okay, so what was the investor's rate of return? Shoot, he just gets into this loan, and 8 months later, the borrower refinances and pays him off. You think he's going to be happy? Well, let's see what happens to his rate of return. So how do you calculate the rate of return? You first put in how much money you invested. So in this case, negative 85,000 because it was out of his pocket. And then what did he collect? He collected 8 monthly payments of $900 plus this final payoff of $95,218.94. So we simply solve for I and look at his rate of return. It went from, what was it, 11% or something up to 29%. Do you see why I love early payoffs? If you have invested in a discounted note and it pays off early, your rate of return goes up. So this tells me that if an investor buys the note for $85,000 and he receives 8 payments of $900 in a final balloon of $95,218.24, his rate of return is 29.25%. And we put that over on our notes, and that's what that looks like. See, he bought that expecting to get an 11.38% return. And because it paid off early, his return jumps to 29.25%. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? I love it. Early payoffs are one of my favorite things.
I'll take one of those, Donna.
Everybody would, Matthew, if they know about it. You're one of the lucky ones to know. Okay, how do you calculate your rate of return? Okay, well, we were looking at it from the view of the lender. So to calculate your rate of return, you enter your original investment amount into PV, you enter the number of payments you received, and you enter the amount of payments, including the balloon. So you're basically putting in whatever you invested and then you enter whatever you received, and then you solve for I. And that's how we found out. And you know what? We didn't put it in the calculator. We need to do that. I kind of jumped ahead. Let's go back here a sec. So he had collected 8 payments. So we got 8 into N. We got his original investment amount, sorry, which was 85,000 negative into PV. And we have the payment amount. Oh, his payoff was $95,218.24. That was already in there. And we solve for I, and we do indeed come up with 29.25%. Okay. Okay. So now that you have an understanding of how to calculate your various components of a note, you know what the next thing to do is? You need to learn how to organize them. And that's what we're going to talk about, like I said, in our next webinar, is using the note buyer's evaluation worksheet, which is all about the 4 infallible steps. Okay. Why do I call them the 4 infallible steps? Because if you follow those 4 steps, you will have that checkpoint of, does PV equal FV, like I showed you. And it helps you so that you don't make a mistake, because if it doesn't match, you know something's wrong. And as long as I use that, I don't make a mistake. The time when I make a mistake on my numbers is when I didn't do my 4 steps. It really does work. So we're going to cover that on Tuesday night. I hope you will join us. Notice that we changed the date. It was supposed to be Thursday, but I had to change it to Tuesday. I hope that's not a problem. If you're not able to join us on Tuesday, don't worry. We will have a recording available for you. Okay. Now, if you don't mind, I want to take just a minute and remind you about the upcoming Academy. I sure hope you have already registered. If not, hurry and register. You know what, Matthew? I think we need to extend this date, because we were going to have, today was the last day for the early bird special. I think we need
to extend it.
We're going to have the Tuesday night webinar. I think we should give them a, let's say till Wednesday at midnight.
Okay. Wednesday
Could
at
you
midnight.
send out an email for that, please?
Sure. Wednesday the 3rd. We'll do it.
Because otherwise they're still hearing the webinars and everything. And I want them to have the advantage of the 300 savings. It's a $300 savings. Okay.
Yep,
Thank you for that, Matthew. So this is going to be a 2-day virtual event. It is November 13th and 14th. Friday night, we're going to have a little virtual get together. And I got to tell you, last year, that was a lot of fun. It's a BYOB, okay? Because everybody will be at home. Anyway, this is going to be 2 days of hands-on teaching. It's hands-on interactive learning. Like, I have really discovered that the best way to learn is actually working on deals. That's why I have the easiest 1, 2, 3 coaching. But this is training. I will have a whole lot on Saturday. We're just going to go through deals and we're going to evaluate them. And I'm going to show you how I come up with the quotes. By the end of the day, you'll be able to come up with your own quotes. Okay. You will know how to tell the difference between a bad note and a good note. You'll know what offsets one thing. Oh, they don't have any down payment, but oh my gosh, it's been seasoned for 10 years. And yes, I'm buying a bunch of notes right now that actually were originated in 2008. And I just closed on another one from 2007 just this week. So they do have older notes. Anyway, you're going to learn by reviewing deals and creating quotes. We're going to have some breakout sessions where you get together in a group, and you'll be able to help each other to formulate the offers. And what will be really cool is you'll be able to see my own thought process, and you'll learn my actual note pricing. Everybody asked me about that. This is your chance to learn that. Then Sunday morning, I'm going to walk you through a complete note flip. We're going to go through all the documents. You'll see exactly what I do, start to finish, all the due diligence, ordering title, appraisal, orchestrating the closing, working with the investor, and closing the deal. So we're going to cover A to Z how to flip a note, and you'll see how that all works. Then on Sunday afternoon, we are going to go over my exclusive alternative to the partial purchase. And I did present this last year, and everybody loved it. But I did get some emails from people that said, oh, thanks for telling us about the options. I use options all the time. I'll just do that. I don't think I would do that if I were you. It took me several months of working on this and talking to several attorneys before I came up with what I was comfortable enough to use. And then it took me another 3 years of modifying that and perfecting it till I got to the point where I felt like I could share it with students. So the thing that you need to realize is that there are nuances to buying a partial. What happens in the event of an early payoff? What happens in the event of foreclosure? And those are the kind of things that the SEC wants to make sure are handled properly. So I highly recommend that you don't jump the gun and just start using any old option that you download from the internet, because I would be afraid that you might get in trouble over it. So I will go through how my option agreement works. I'll explain it all to you. I think that is definitely a more advanced strategy, but I promise you it's one that you're going to want to learn to use. So 2 days of hands-on training that will empower you to close more deals, make quick cash, and build a financial legacy. It is going to be 2 power-packed days, and it's all from the comfort of your own home. But you know what? There's more to it than that. You know what? I didn't put this on here. I can't believe. I'm also including 6 months of my Easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching. Okay, so what is that? Many of you are already using it. It is where you do the marketing, you find a note, a seller carryback that somebody wants to sell. This would be a performing note. You fill out the submission form, you send it to me. When I get that, that's when your real coaching starts. I can't coach you until you find a deal. It's your 6 months starts the day after the academy ends, but the actual hands-on learning is when you submit a deal. And so I will evaluate the whole deal. I will write it all up for you. I will write the quote. I take all the guesswork out. So you know when you call the note seller back, you know exactly what you need to say. You know the talking points, the negotiating points, and everything. When they accept the deal, you let me know. You get a copy of the note from them. I fill out the contract to purchase, and you're basically the liaison with the note seller. You gather up documents and you're working with them. I will be the liaison with the investor. We will use my investors. I do all the due diligence. And when we close, we split the profits 50-50. It is the most awesome way to learn. When you know that you're going to be getting paid at the end of the deal, you pay attention. It's a whole lot better way to learn than to listen to a lecture. And so I really do listen to your comments after all the events and everything. And what people told us was they didn't want 4 days. That was too long. And they loved the hands-on training. And they could really use some more coaching. So this year, instead of 4 days of training and just 3 months of coaching, I made it 2 days of training and 6 months of coaching. That's a whole lot better deal for you, because you're going to get the hands-on time with me on individual notes that you are working on. My goal is to help you to close some notes. If I can get you to close one, you're going to be going crazy. You will love it. I'll never forget when I closed my first deal. I don't even jog, and I had to run around the block. I was so full of adrenaline and excitement. I was jumping up and down. I finally just said to my husband, watch the kids. I got to take a run. It's really cool. And I want you to experience that. So I hope you will register. You can do that right now at notebuyerzacademy.com. Again, that's for November 13th and 14th. And I didn't even tell you, on Saturday night, we're going to have Carl Fisher do a very special IRA session. Okay. And thank God that horrible budget reconciliation bill, they pulled all the IRA stuff out of it. So we don't have to deal with that. But he's got lots of cool things to show you about the Roth IRA and different things. I think he's going to surprise you with some stuff you might not be aware of. And like I said, you'll get the 6 months of Easy as 1, 2, 3 coaching. You get all of that for only $997. I'm really trying to make it a no-brainer for you so that I want you to be successful. I want to be closing deals with you. Now, if you're a new student, you are going to need my Note Buyer's Master Guide system. And so we put a bundle price together on that. So you can add that to the Academy. You can get both of them for only $1,994. Okay. So that is 2 days of hands-on training plus 6 months of coaching, and you get it all for only $997. I hope you will register now. Do it now before Wednesday night at midnight. And I'll make that Pacific time. Okay. And that way you save the $300. After that, the price is $1297. Okay. So register now and get ready. I want the next year to be the best year ever. I want you to be closing notes. People need money now. And they like right now, I am flooded with deals again. In the summertime, it is always slow. For 35 years, summers, people just don't do anything. They're too busy out having fun. But people are back, the kids are back in school, people are back to work, and they are needing cash, okay? And they're cashing out of their seller carryback notes. You need to jump on this so you can get your piece of the action. Okay, so I hope to see you at the Academy. First, I'll see you Tuesday night for the 4 infallible steps. And then on the 13th and 14th of November, I hope you're at the virtual Academy. Hope to see you then. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun for me. I hope it was fun for you, and I hope you learned a lot. Take care. God bless.
Thanks, Donna. This was a great
Thank you, Matthew.
presentation. We're gonna have a great Academy this year.
It is going to be good. Thank you for your help, Matthew. Couldn't do it without you.
No problem. Thanks, guys.